the Sterling Heights Public Library. My name is Brent, and we are going to continue with our cooking series right now. I am going to touch on some knife skills here again, but also we're going to be making a little recipe today that is something I picked up a few years ago. It's a southern tradition called Hoppin John. Now, for those of you who may have bought a whole bunch of rice and dried beans prior to this whole thing blowing up, this is a great way to use some of that. So we'll touch on that and we'll go from there. So come on down to the board here and we'll show you a little bit about how to do things today. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to cut an onion. So you may have seen this before at some point. This is probably going to be if that's the case, you've probably seen something very similar to this, but we're going to just kind of go through it for anybody who doesn't know. So first thing to do is we're going to take off the top here. So we're going to hold the onion like this, just kind of get in there, take that top off. Now, sometimes you can go ahead and take the root off right away, but depending on exactly what you're doing with, sometimes this will help hold things together. So in this case, we're going to leave that on there, and we're just going to peel this thing. I'll show you how to chop this thing in a timely and efficient manner. So pull that all off there. Go ahead and cut it in half. Now, leaving the root end on, this will hold things together and make it easier to work with. We're going to come in here and slice it this direction using the tip of the blade. You don't want to go all the way through. Most of the way, but not all the way. Go that direction. If you want to make a little bit finer chop on things, you can come in this way here. Again, not all the way through. This will give you a nice even dice. And then you're going to hold it with your pinky tip and thumb like so. And a couple of fingers across the top. Just hold it together. And that will give you a nice even dice. And when you get down towards that root end, you might just drop it down like so, just to finish up that last little bit. This is trash. So we'll go ahead and put that over into some of our vegetables here. We'll deal with the rest of this in a little bit. I'm not going to waste camera time on it. Peeling a carrot, fairly straightforward. Go ahead and get a decent grip on it with a peeler and just nice and even. About 7 or 8 strokes will usually finish most carrots. Take off the top and the tip. And you get a nice dice on this. It's easier if you take it into halves first. Cut it lengthwise. Drop it so the flat is on your board. One more time. Do this with a couple of these other pieces. Turn those, and again, to keep a stack together, use your hand to just keep that there, and of course, keep your fingers away from the edge of your blade. Celery, pretty much the same thing. Just get a nice stalk of that off of there. You know, this one's nice and clean. I don't really need to worry too much about washing this one. Sometimes you get a little dirt in these things. If you see that, just wash it off. Just take that rib and break it down a little smaller. So, all total there, I think got about probably 3 cups of mixture of onions, celery, and diced carrot here. This is a good mix. This is the foundation for a lot of cooking. So what we're going to do with this, we're going to take a pan and some butter. Aha! Knew I had a spoon around here somewhere. Probably about a tablespoon, tablespoon and a half. Toss that right in there. Your vegetables. Go ahead and get this on the stove over about medium heat and just take this gently until it starts to soften up a little bit. While we're doing that, we're going to pretend we've got a burner right here. We'll go ahead and just dice up a few slices of ham. Bacon also works. And then, as your vegetables are cooking, you can go ahead and add the ham in there. And again, you just want to get that going until the vegetables begin to soften a little bit. Now, got a little bit of fresh thyme here. You can always use dried. This is pretty easy to work with. If you've got the dried, it's even easier. But if you just go ahead and get a good grip on the stem, and then kind of pinch it a little bit, and pull that stem between your fingers, most of those little leaves should come right off of there without too much stem involved. You may have to come back in and clean it up a little bit, but this stuff is super easy to grow. You don't need a lot of space for it. It's real easy to get a plant of this growing right outside your door, and then you've got pretty much fresh thyme whenever you want it. But again, there's no reason you can't use the dried stuff. It's easily available and works very, very nicely. You might just give that a little bit of a chop. It's not going to require much. The leaves are very small. Go ahead and add that right into your vegetable and ham mixture. And then when this here gets to the point where those veggies are starting to get a little bit on the soft side, you're going to go ahead and add, actually we're going to do these here. So these here are black-eyed peas. I got these dried, started out with about a cup. I gave these an overnight soak and just cooked them on the stovetop for about 20 minutes, half an hour, just to give them a little bit of a head start so they softened up a little bit. Sometimes some of your dried beans will take longer to cook than other stuff, so you just want to get them to sort of tender before you add them into this, because you don't want to overcook the rest of this stuff while you're waiting for your beans to cook. So we can toss those right in there. Throw in about a cup of rice. Give it a little bit of a stir, and then you're going to go ahead and add about 2 cups of either broth or water. This is chicken broth I just happen to have around. You can use a little bit more, but if you're using 1 cup of rice, you don't want to go too much more than maybe 2.5, possibly 3 cups of water, or your rice is going to come out soggy. Oh, 2 more things. A bay leaf and a few grinds of black pepper. And as this goes, about the time that your rice is fully cooked, you should be ready to go. Make sure that you're working with a big enough pan. By the time you're all done, this is probably going to take up about 3-4 quart size. Exact measurements aren't super important, except for making sure that the rice and broth proportions are about right. You don't have to use black-eyed peas. They work really well for this particular recipe, but pretty much any dried beans. It's fairly quick, easy, nutritious, and dirt cheap. This is pretty much what I've got for you today, so thanks for coming, and we'll hope to see you soon.